Movie Time is produced by John DeSando. Listen to shows and read reviews online at wcbe.org.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm still Mindy Mcfann.
And this is It's Movie Time.
Well, yes, it is.
Wow.
Yes,
It's been a long time since 9/11.
Yes, it's been a huge, I realize it's like some of my children's lifetimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe almost 20 years.
Yes.
I know. And so it's kind of interesting to revisit it on Ken Feinberg's, kind of his take on all of this with the movie that's on Netflix.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for Netflix these days, Mindy.
Absolutely. I need my fix.
It's called Worth.
Yeah.
All right, so what am I talking about? I seem to be dancing around here.
Well, it's about the value of a human life and how we subjectively or objectively make that decision.
Yeah, and so back in right after 9/11, Feinberg is the attorney who volunteered pro bono to fix the value on the lives that were lost and to award that to families and survivors of 9/11.
To protect the airline industries and the economy.
And there it is. There's the underlying story here. He did begin with that notion, and it's clear that in order to avoid litigation, which is going to cripple the airlines and really send us in negatively in our economy, to have people individually suing these entities. And some were going to sue the United States for not protecting them.
Yeah.
Which I find just kind of foolish, thinking that our country was responsible.
Yeah. Well, there were a lot of mistakes made. I mean, but I used to work, I was a legal secretary in a personal injury lawyer's law office. So I saw this kind of stuff up front, how you would evaluate. There were law books on the shelves that told you exactly the value of each person's lives and all the actuary tables and all that kind of stuff. So I was familiar with that aspect of it. But the problem is when people are reacting emotionally, they're mourning. Who mourns well?
Yes, yes. And what I liked in this docudrama, I particularly liked the opening sequence at my alma mater at Georgetown.
Mm-hmm.
And Feinberg was teaching class and asking his law students to affix a value on human life.
Yeah.
Now I found that really interesting.
It is interesting, and it has to be done, and it's horrible.
So they came up with a couple of million, I think, somewhere around there, which seemed to be kind of reasonable until you begin to look at individual cases.
Yeah.
And curious too about this docudrama, they never go back to the classroom.
Correct.
And I kind of was sorry about that.
Right. Well, he's an adjunct professor, I think, at 10 colleges or something.
Is that right? Yeah.
I mean, his resume is crazy. It's crazy. But I think it did a really good job of showing kind of where that meeting point is. Anybody who does a job that is a job where you are exposed to a lot of trauma, you have to take on a certain mindset to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I work with traumatized children, and I have people tell me all the time, I couldn't do what you do.
Yeah.
People say that to me all the time. You have to have a certain personality, a certain wherewithal, not to, I don't know if you can call it, maybe a talent. I mean, nurses, all those kind of people where you have to be able to cope. And part of that coping is you have to have a veneer. That does not mean you're heartless or inhumane. I just think he had learned to be objective so he could do his job.
Agreed. And he mentions this. He says to his very capable co-worker, I guess you'd call it. This would be the Amy Grant, is it? Who does the two of them are partners in that firm.
Yeah.
And he says you can't cherry pick.
Yeah.
Because people are beginning to present their individual cases. And you can see how he's trying to keep this mode, which is exactly the one you thought he would use, and he does use, which is, we need the formula, that's how it's gonna do it, and I have to, he's tacitly saying he has to pull back from the emotion, but people will not allow him to do that.
Well, and the idea of doing this is that no billions of dollars would not replace a loved one.
Sure.
It's not going to make you feel better. And to think practically when you are in the middle of mourning something is unbearable.
Yes, yes, yes. And fortunately, he's got, and it is actually played by Amy Ryan, Camille Biros as his core. Fortunately, she has some heart. Not that he doesn't, but it's just as you say, he's learned.
Yes. Yes.
But when they begin hitting him, and when he meets Charles Wolfe, played
wonderfully.
Wow, Stanley Tucci.
Isn't he great?
Whoa, talk about underplaying to effect. I mean, wow.
He pulled at my heart because I thought, was there a time where people could disagree and still treat each other decently?
Good point.
I mean, I thought their relationship made my heart so happy that these two people coming from both in their own kinds of pain.
Yes.
And they didn't try to beat each other up.
And we should note that Michael Keaton plays the lead role of Ken Feinberg, and he's also producer of this film.
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, so Netflix picked it up from him, and I think it's somehow has his stamp all over it.
Oh yes, he must have followed the real Ken Feinberg everywhere because there were so many nuances to the way he moved his mouth. There were so many gestures that I went, oh my gosh.
The wider glasses.
Every move of his hand, the way his mouth, his accent, everything.
I saw a photo of the two of them, they juxtaposed. Wow, they look like brothers.
Yeah.
So, but you're bringing up the point that really interests me about this docudrama. Now, my favorite docudramas of all time are different from this one, and maybe it'll make my point. Dog Day Afternoon, for instance, is my favorite with Al Pacino. All right. And Michael Keaton is no Al Pacino, though they're both very fine actors. Pacino is a supremely fine actor. And All the President's Men, where you have two very fine actors acting out in a docudrama way. Now the difference is this docudrama is really cool. I mean cool, like flatline cool. Is that?
Yes, absolutely. That's a very, very good way of putting it. It doesn't, nothing is, this sounds crazy, it's not dramatic.
Yes.
There's not these crescendos and downs and ups. It's kind of like just, you feel like more like you're inside of him, and the movie is reflective of his personality.
Yes, I would agree. And even Camille, Amy Ryan's Camille, has a cool about her, even though she is the more emotional of the two.
Yes.
I think until, Mindy, we get to the Donato business, it doesn't really start to get emotional. This is the firefighter brother, Frank, who, together with the
widow.
Yes, with the widow, approaches Feinberg in a way that really makes you stop. Because first of all, they're not interested in the money.
Yeah.
But they do want the respect. They do want the story told. And his brother went back into the building.
Yeah.
It might have been even going back for him.
Yeah.
And Feinberg, it's just the beginning of a slow process of change for Feinberg.
Yeah.
As he tries to deal with this.
There was more to the story than they wanted to tell.
And that isn't that the point? You could apply your formula all you want, but what about somebody who has a mistress with 2 kids and they want some of the money?
Yeah, yeah. Or the gay guy who was not acknowledged by the family. I mean, they only had to tell like a couple stories to make you understand that every single person had a story. Everybody's life had nuance to it.
Yes. Now there are thousands of people involved.
Yes.
but they chose, I thought appropriately, a couple of instances, obviously they're meant to represent whole groups of people. But I thought both the case of the family with the extended family and then the two gay men, depending on which state they were in.
Yes, yes,
Because in Virginia, no acknowledgement.
right.
And maybe New York State?
They got it changed in New York.
Okay.
They went to the governor and had it changed so that the life partners could get acknowledged within the fund.
Right.
Because that was one of the kindest moments of the movie, when she calls the partner to tell him he's not going to be acknowledged because he lives in Virginia and the parents won't acknowledge him.
Yes.
But she tells him that he changed it for the people in New York. And I thought that was such a kindness because it made something matter.